Commander Jace Rennick hated ceremonies. He especially hated ceremonies that lasted more than 3 hours and required him to wear boots polished enough to reflect his scowl. Unfortunately, today's diplomatic assignment on planet Thalex wasn't negotiable. He was the only human in a sea of shimmering alien aristocrats. A procession of music, bioluminescent fabric, and sweet-burning incense moved around him like a living tide. Lanterns floated above the marble courtyard. The stars were closer here, glowing like they had something to say. Jace tugged at the stiff collar of his navy formal uniform. "Just observe," they told him back at HQ. "Smile, nod, don't start an interstellar incident." Easy enough until the King's steward pulled him forward. "You've been selected," the man said, his skin a translucent pale blue that shimmered like sunlight on water. "Selected for what?" Jace asked, masking confusion with a half-smile. The steward gestured toward the center dais, where a figure stood in ceremonial green and gold, her features as alien as they were breathtaking. Princess Aurenia. Tall. Regal. Eyes like cut emeralds. Her gaze locked onto his like she'd been expecting him. "Your presence is a sign of unity," the steward explained. "You shall drink the oath wine, a custom of honored guests." Jace blinked. "Is this a toast or a ritual?" "It is a celebration," the steward answered smoothly. The crowd made room. Drums slowed. A cup was brought forth etched with symbols that pulsed faintly in his peripheral vision. Jace took the chalice, glancing toward the Federation diplomat across the platform. The diplomat smiled and gave a thumbs up, utterly useless. With a steady hand, Jace drank. Warm. Sweet. Sharp on the tail end. Something metallic. The moment it passed his lips, a surge of warmth rolled across his skin. The crowd murmured. He felt it before he saw it. A faint golden shimmer appeared on his chest under his uniform, just over his heart. "What the hell?" he whispered. A bell rang. Loud. Deep. The princess stepped forward. "The rite of flame is honored," the priestess announced, raising her arms to the sky. "The consort is chosen." Jace choked on his breath. Consort. Too late. The air buzzed with applause. He turned to the princess, hoping for an explanation. Instead, she offered her hand. "For appearances," she said under her breath. Her voice was rich but measured, like she was balancing a scale in her mind. "Let's be clear," Jace murmured. "I didn't agree to marry anyone today." "Of course not," she replied with an unreadable smile. "But you drank the oath wine. And walked the flame path. What happens next may not be entirely up to you." He hesitated, then took her hand. The crowd roared approval. Somewhere in the sea of faces, a slender figure with sharp eyes, Grand Vizier Cravel, watched with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Back inside the crystalline palace, Jace followed Aurenia through arched hallways lit by starglass. Guards fell into step behind them like shadows. "You're calm for someone who just got surprise married," he said. "I've trained for diplomacy since I could walk." "Calm is what I sell," she replied. They entered a private chamber draped in white silk and glowing vines. Jace stayed by the door. "Okay. Talk to me straight," he said. "Was this a trap? A joke? A political stunt?" Aurenia turned, dropping the formal posture. "I didn't plan for you. The rite chooses based on will, presence, and resonance. You met the conditions. It sealed itself. Your father's face didn't look surprised." She paused. "He wasn't. So this was deliberate." "Not by me. Likely the vizier. He needed a husband I couldn't control. Someone expendable." "Charming," Jace muttered. "So what now? Divorce? Annulment?" Aurenia walked toward him, slow and deliberate. "On Thalex, the rite is binding. But there is a clause. After 3 sun cycles, if both parties reject the bond under oath, it can be dissolved." 3 days. She nodded. Jace exhaled. "Then we're playing house until we can undo it. Unless you change your mind." He looked at her carefully. "Do you want me to?" Her lips curved, but not in humor. "I want to survive. You, unintentionally, may have given me a chance." "How?" She moved to a console and pressed a button. A hologram lit up showing Crevel speaking with foreign diplomats, discussing Aurenia's removal and replacement with a pliant cousin. Treason, if revealed. I needed a witness, she said quietly. Someone not bound by our politics. You're inconvenient. That makes you valuable. Jace crossed his arms. You're saying if I stay, I could help expose him? She looked up. Yes. But I'm not asking. I'm offering the truth. You can leave if you choose, but Crevel will see that as betrayal and act accordingly. You're trapped. Her jaw tightened. And now, so are you. A beat of silence passed. Finally, Jace laughed, low, sharp, surprised. Well, I came for hors d'oeuvres and interstellar dancing. Ended up a royal pawn. You're not a pawn, she said. You just walked onto the board before reading the rules. He nodded once, glancing at the door. All right, Your Highness. Let's see where this game goes. Jace didn't sleep that night. The guest chamber was luxurious, glass walls overlooking the floating gardens, vines that glowed faintly with bioluminescence, but it might as well have been a cage. He stood by the window, arms crossed, watching the twin moons drag shadows across the sky. Somewhere in the palace, his new wife was likely being questioned by courtiers, her every move interpreted like scripture. He hated this. The worst part? She didn't seem to. At breakfast, she arrived in a gown woven from what looked like living petals. She moved like someone used to being observed, regal, self-contained. Her guards opened the door. Jace stood from his seat but didn't bow. She noticed. I thought I'd find you halfway to a Federation cruiser by now, she said, sliding into the chair across from him. I considered it, he admitted. But I don't run from problems. I identify them, fix them, and move on. She sipped something thick and blue from a delicate cup. A military man's code. Better than yours, he said. Which I'm still trying to figure out. A pause. Then a sharp smile. Let me make it simple. She leaned in, voice low. Crevel arranged for me to marry a pliable cousin. Someone with royal blood but no spine. I've avoided the rite for years, but it became unavoidable. Then you arrived. And drank the wine. More than wine. That was the oath elixir. It binds the will. It doesn't control you, but it registers your intentions. Your heart. Jace blinked. You're telling me your culture has a literal truth serum disguised as wedding champagne. She tilted her head. You passed it. He gave a humorless laugh. Fantastic. And now you think I'm your shield? No. I hope you're my shield, she corrected. But I think you're something more dangerous. What's that? Unaligned. Later that day, Jace was summoned to the court terrace. Not as a guest this time, as a target. He stood in ceremonial armor they'd forced on him. It didn't fit. He hated every second of it. Crevel stood before a sea of nobles, robes trailing, voice like honey on steel. As per our sacred law, any consort must prove their honor to the court. A challenge must be issued. To confirm purity, intent, loyalty. Aurenia watched silently, face unreadable. What kind of challenge? Jace asked. Crevel smiled. A duel. Non-lethal. Symbolic. But public. Decline, and the rite collapses. You'll be exiled. So will she. Aurenia's jaw flexed, but she said nothing. Jace stepped forward. Who do I fight? Crevel gestured, and from the wings, a towering Thelexian warrior appeared, clad in bronze plates and wielding a double-bladed staff crackling with blue energy. Jace sighed. Of course. The duel began with a pulse of the terrace gong. The warrior came fast. Too fast. Jace barely blocked the first strike with the ceremonial blade he'd been given. Useless thing. Decorative. Heavy. He threw it aside and dodged a downward arc, rolling hard across the stone. The crowd gasped. The warrior pressed the advantage. Jace used his surroundings, grabbed a dropped shield, ducked under a high swing, swept a leg. It worked. For a moment. He took a punch to the ribs, felt something crack. On instinct, he dove forward, slamming his shoulder into the warrior's gut, driving them both to the ground. Silence. He scrambled up first. The staff was within reach. He lifted it, aimed it at the warrior's chest and paused. He let it fall. The crowd buzzed. Crevel stepped forward. He doesn't finish it. But Aurenia raised her hand. No. He chooses not to. Mercy is a choice of the strong. Jace looked up at her, chest heaving. She met his gaze. For the first time, something unspoken passed between them. Respect. That night, she came to his room. He was shirtless, bruised, tending to his side when she entered. "You're reckless," she said, shutting the door behind her. "You're welcome," he grunted. She crossed the room and crouched beside him. "Let me see." He hesitated, then allowed her to press her fingers lightly to his ribs. Her touch was cool. Intentional. "I've never seen someone defy the right and win the crowd," she murmured. "I'm not trying to win anyone." "No?" she asked, raising an eyebrow. "Then why not strike the final blow?" "Because he wasn't my enemy," Jace said. "He was your culture's weapon. Used by someone hiding behind robes and speeches." She didn't respond at first. "Then, you saw through him." "I've dealt with his type before." Her fingers lingered. "You're not what I expected." "Neither are you." A long pause stretched. "I'm not asking you to love me," she said finally. "I'm asking for 3 days. Of alliance. Of honesty. If we can't fake that, Crevel wins." "I don't fake anything," Jace said. Their eyes locked. There was heat in the silence. Then she stood. "I'll see you tomorrow," she said softly. As the door closed behind her, Jace leaned back and whispered to no one, 3 days. The bruises hadn't faded. Neither had the spotlight. Commander Jace Rennick stood in the echoing Hall of Echoes, yet another absurdly named room in the Thelection Palace, facing a half-circle of diplomats, nobles, and quiet observers. The aftermath of his duel hadn't ended with applause. It had stirred something deeper. Something Crevel didn't like. His victory was symbolic, Crevel said, voice carefully measured. But it does not confirm allegiance. He stood when others fled, Aurenia replied evenly from her seat beside the throne. "That's loyalty enough for me." She hadn't looked at Jace once. Not since last night. Not since the moment between them that had hovered too long in the silence. Later, back in her private solar, Aurenia poured 2 cups of spiced flameroot tea. She handed one to Jace without a word. The moment lingered. "So," he said finally, "I wanna fight. Now what?" She stared at the horizon beyond the window, where suns dipped low behind the translucent cliffs. "Now we take the next step." "What step is that?" She handed him a glowing crystal disc. "Proof." Jace turned it over in his hands. It pulsed faintly, as though alive. "This contains Crevel's secret correspondence," she explained. "Trade with non-union militaries. Bribes. Arrangements for my assassination if I refused the right. It's locked under royal encryption." "Then why give it to me?" "Because I can't access it." Her voice dropped. "But your clearance, as a neutral Federation liaison, might trigger diplomatic override." Jace frowned. "You're asking me to break into your government's secrets. On record." "No," she said. "I'm asking you to expose treason." He looked at the crystal again. "If this works, Crevel goes down." She nodded. "But it'll put a target on your back." He set the crystal aside. "I'm already married to a glowing green princess. Might as well commit." That earned him a faint smile. Not royal. Not reserved. Real. That night, Jace met with a contact, Lieutenant Myra Voss, a Terran cybersecurity officer embedded with the Galactic Union Tech Bureau. They linked the crystal into a private channel. Myra whistled. "Encrypted with 5 layers of Thelection bloodlock. You're lucky she trusts you." "She didn't say she trusts me," Jace muttered. "She gave me a gamble. And you're betting your life on it." He looked straight into the holofeed. "Yeah. I am." 2 hours later, the encryption cracked. Jace scrolled through names. Codes. Signed orders from Crevel. Export manifests tagged to outlaw worlds. And one final entry, an order for Aurenia's termination, citing corruption of royal bloodline through unvetted human union. His chest tightened. He forwarded the data to the Federation diplomatic channel. Time to go public. He found Aurenia alone, standing on the skywalk beneath the moons. Her gown caught the light like liquid. He didn't speak. Just handed her a data slate. She read silently. When she reached the assassination order, her jaw clenched. He was going to do it. And still smile at me every morning. Not anymore, Jace said. She didn't answer. Just stared at the stars for a long beat. Then, you had every chance to walk away. I'm not good at walking away, he said. Especially from people who still stand tall while someone tries to crush them. She turned toward him slowly. You still think this is just a game? No, he said. I think it stopped being one the moment we stopped pretending. They stood close now, the air between them charged. She lifted a hand, resting it lightly on his chest. Do you know what the right really is, Jace? He shook his head. It's not just a ceremony. It's a test. Of compatibility. Of will. It reacts to truth. It marks you if it finds resonance. He swallowed. And did it. Aurenia stared at the mark faintly glowing beneath his collar. Then touched her own, mirroring it. It did. The kiss wasn't sudden. It was inevitable. They didn't sleep that night. When the sun rose, it did so to the sound of armored boots and emergency gongs. Jace woke to shouting. Aurenia was already at the door, robe flaring, eyes hard. Guards. Now. Crevel's forces had staged a false coup. He'd declared Aurenia compromised and Jace an infiltrator. The vizier's private guard now surrounded the palace. The king, too ill to fight, too bound by law to act without evidence, was locked in the upper sanctum. Jace grabbed his uniform and sidearm. We need to move. Fast. Where? To the archives. You said the right responds to truth. We'll use it. They raced through ancient tunnels under the palace, arriving at the archives, massive halls of glowing crystal pillars and memory orbs. Crevel was waiting. Bold, he said. But futile. You forged charges, Aurenia snapped. We have evidence. He sneered. From a human? It won't stand. Jace stepped forward and slammed the encrypted crystal onto the altar platform. Light flared. Holograms spun. And then, before everyone gathered, Crevel's voice echoed through the chamber. Orders. Bribes. The assassination protocol. Silence fell. Crevel lunged. Aurenia stepped in his path and delivered a strike to the throat that dropped him to one knee. Guards moved in. By Thelexian law, the High Priestess declared, Crevel is stripped of title. Banished to the Void Colonies. Back in her solar, Aurenia paced quietly while Jace leaned against the far wall. You did more than I ever asked, she said softly. You trusted me. She looked over. Do you regret drinking the oath wine? He shook his head. Not anymore. You still have a choice, Jace. 3 days are up. If you want to leave. He crossed the room, stopped in front of her. I'll go. If you tell me to. She didn't. So he stayed. The palace had changed. Gone were the suspicious glances and forced formalities. The courtiers now bowed not out of fear, but out of respect. Jace Rennick, the outsider, had exposed the highest betrayal in centuries. He hadn't just married into the royal line. He'd earned it. But no title felt heavier than the silence that now hung between him and Aurenia. She stood by the water mirror in the quiet atrium, cloaked in a robe of deep green threaded with gold veins. Her reflection shimmered beside her, perfect but unreadable. Jace approached slowly. You haven't said much since Crevel's exile. There hasn't been much to say, she replied without turning. He stopped a few feet away. That's not like you. Her hands tightened at her sides. We spent 3 days surviving together. Today, the bond is final. He stepped closer. You sound like it's a sentence. No, she said, finally facing him. It's just, when it began, everything felt like strategy. I had to think in terms of advantage. Power. Protection. She looked at him. But now, I find myself thinking of you. Without agenda. Jace searched her eyes. Then let's stop pretending this was ever just a tactic. Aurenia's breath caught slightly. He reached out, brushing his fingers against the side of her hand. Do you want this, Orenya? Not for your people. Not for duty. For yourself. She stared at their hands for a moment, then closed hers around his. Yes, she whispered. Later that morning, the king's chamber doors opened to reveal the throne room fully restored. Columns sparkled with sunlit crystal, banners flowed from high beams. But this was no royal display for a galaxy to witness. This was for them. A wedding, real this time. Chosen. Not imposed. The high priestess stood between them, holding a simple star-forged circlet, the rite's final seal. Orenya wore white and silver, her hair braided in a crown style worn only by sovereign women. Jace wore election formal armor not for battle, but for honor. His federation stripes had been removed. He belonged to no nation now. Just to her. As the priestess began the vow, a hush fell over the court. Let these hearts be bound, not by custom, but by choice. Speak now, before the stars themselves. Orenya stepped forward. I vow not to rule over you, but beside you. You see me not as heir, but as woman. As flawed. As fierce. As frightened. And still, you stood with me. She took his hand. I choose you. Then Jace. I came here to watch a ceremony. I ended up inside it. I thought I was the outsider, but you never treated me that way. You saw more in me than I knew I had left. He drew a breath. You didn't need saving. But somehow, saving you saved me. He tightened his grip on her hand. I choose you, too. The high priestess lowered the circlet onto both their joined hands. Then by right and will, this bond is sealed. Not in law, but in truth. A pulse of golden light shimmered from their joined marks. It was done. That night, the palace was quiet again. The celebrations had ended. The stars outside glittered like candles scattered across black silk. Jace and Orenya stood alone on the same skywalk where they'd argued, then later aligned. Only now, there was no distance between them. I never thought my life would be more than rooms full of liars and advisors, she said softly, resting her head on his shoulder. I never thought mine would end up married to an alien royal and fighting a coup, Jace replied. But here we are. She looked up at him. Are you ready for what comes next? You mean the politics? The spotlight? The pressure? No, she said. The permanence. He pulled her closer. That's the only part I'm sure of. A gust of warm air lifted her veil slightly. She didn't fix it. Just let it fall. Does this mean Earth and Thalex are allies now? He asked, half joking. It means something better, she said. It means we finally understand each other. They stood that way, the galaxy slowly turning around them. In the distance, a shooting star split the sky. Orenya took his hand again, gently this time. Come, she said, smiling. Let's write history. Together.